Welcome to the Self Triumph Podcast, where we believe that you are unlimited beyond your beliefs.
Where you find purpose in the pain, and through that you find your inner wisdom,
which gives you perspective on how you can change your life, become committed to maturity and responsibility.
Join us to discover more about your inner journey.
Let's do it. All right. So, welcome to another episode of the Self Triumph Podcast.
Yeah.
We've got an awesome guest today, Ante Strika.
Ante, how you going, mate?
Good. How you doing, boys?
Yeah, good. Thanks so much for coming on the episode. It's a real pleasure to be able to talk to you.
That's okay. Pleasure to be here.
So, Ante, you're in Queensland on the Gold Coast in Australia, and we're really stoked to have you on because we know you through mutual friends. We also know you used to live in Canberra, but you've got a really interesting story to tell, right? You've had quite an amazing transformation, and we just want to know, like, what's your story and what's your zero to hero tale, and what's your self-triumph journey? So if you could share that with us, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, I'd love to. Where do you want me to start?
Where did it all start? Where, basically when you were younger, tell us a bit about your background, yeah.
So I grew up in Canberra. I grew up with two parents that were Croatian, and my dad was in the special forces in Croatia. So I grew up in a very strict household and a very disciplined household.
Ooh.
And I wanted to be like a professional soccer player when I was a kid. And so a lot of my childhood and teenage years, I really didn't do partying or alcohol or anything like that because I was training to become a professional athlete. And so while other people were going to parties and stuff like that, I was waking up at 5:30, going to the gym, going to soccer training before high school. And I've got a lot of fond memories of being at Downer Oval and Dixon Oval at 6 a.m. in a Canberra cold winter morning and kicking a soccer ball and doing burpees, and then going to my soccer coach's house in Dixon, and then he would say to me, Auntie, you got to have a good breakfast and then give me a bit of chocolate as a reward. And so I've got a lot of fond memories of Canberra, and yeah, like a lot of my time was spent training.
Yeah.
Wow.
Do you like the cold or for the heat?
No, I like both, to be honest.
Yeah, fair enough.
I really like the cold mornings, but I tell you what, it's hard to beat going to the beach at 6 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But I don't mind the -5 mornings either. They wake you up. It's
you feel alive, don't you?
You definitely do, and the air's so clean, and you can be out in nature so quickly. It's a beautiful place to live, and yeah, I miss it.
So what ended up happening? Did you follow the soccer lifestyle? Did you end up doing that professionally, or did things change and you ended up on a different path?
Things changed. So I basically, to cut a long story short, I played overseas for an academy. And this academy was like a oceanic academy. So it was Australia, New Zealand, and some of the islands. And I got to travel all around the world. So I played against some of the biggest clubs. I played against Barcelona. I played against Arsenal. I played in Holland. I went to America and played soccer at a university when I was 16. I got to travel the world a lot. And long story short, I ended up deciding to go to university on the encouragement of my parents, let's say. And when I started university, it was like this whole new world was open to me, because until that point, from the ages of, say, 12 or 13 to 18, I would just train, study, hang out with friends occasionally, train, study. And I literally lived like a very semi-professional athlete lifestyle, and I loved it. I really did. But yeah, I ended up going to university at UC, and I ended up studying sports management and entrepreneurship. And I wanted to be a player agent. So I studied this thinking I was going to be like Jerry Maguire. Anyways, long story short, that's not what the degree is. And I got halfway through my degree and I was like, can I swear on this podcast or is it PG?
Yeah.
I was like, shit, this is not what I want to do with my life. What do I do? And at the time, my dad, he was a builder, and he really wanted me to get into the building industry. And I really didn't want to. And so I ended up doing sports management, and I get halfway through this degree and I'm like, this is not what I want to do with my life. So I had two choices. Do I walk away or do I just go finish the 3-year degree? And so what I chose to do was do some minors in entrepreneurship. And up until this point at university, I was a P's equal degrees student. So I would be at the coffee shops all day, and then I would study the night before and then go hit the exams or do the assignments. I was not the best student, but I ended up doing these minors in entrepreneurship and I loved it. I really loved it and I excelled at it. And it was like the first thing in my life that I felt like I was like good at. Like when I played soccer, I wouldn't say I was world class. I had a very creative brain. I could see angles that no one else could see, but I was lazy. I was a lazy soccer player. So when I was at university and I started following this entrepreneurial path, I loved it. And so one of the classes that I had was we had to take a concept and in 6 months develop a whole pitch and presentation. And then we would pitch it in front of the whole class. So there were no assignments, there were no talks, there was nothing. Each class was literally work on your pitch presentation and your product. Anyways, I ended up pitching this clothing company called Infinity Clothing, and I get a standing applause from the lecturer because I'd done such a great job. And it was this really like light bulb moment where I was like, oh, I love this stuff. Like this stuff feels great.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I had my first job in the public service, and I was doing data entry for a company called ComSuper. So I was literally investing the military super.
Holy shit.
So they'd send me their form. I'd like start moving it into the different asset classes upon what they wanted when I wasn't at university. And I had like a side hustle. And my side hustles had to do with selling Christmas ornaments and selling, they were like a children's toy, 3-in-1. It was a blanket, a pillow, and a toy all in one. And so I started importing these and then selling them. And yeah, that's how I got into entrepreneurship.
That's awesome, man. It sounds like you had a really disciplined mindset from the beginning. Like you have a vision, you have a focus, and you go, I'm going to do whatever it takes to get there. And like that's amazing, you know. That's awesome. How was it like the social life of, say, the transition between high school, where you said you didn't really do the partying and all that sort of stuff, which is fair enough, and with the uni? Was there much, like, did you ever get involved in a more social life there, or were you still like, I'm determined, this is all I want, and just not really involve yourself with people?
Not at all. So in high school was really hard for me. I had very bad posture. I had acne everywhere. Like, I mean, pizza face acne. Yeah. Pimples on top of pimples.
Yeah, well,
yeah. And I had incredibly low self-esteem. And so about 2-3 years into high school, these like 2 to 3 years from like year 8 till year 10, year 11, they were incredibly difficult. And they were really formative in a lot of ways as well, because ironically, you know, you touched on primal move, but if I didn't have acne, there would be no primal move.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is, when I had acne, I tried all the Western approaches. I tried Roaccutane, which is like medication. I tried topical creams, antibiotics. Nothing worked. Literally nothing worked.
Wow.
And this is after 3 years. We tried light therapy. I had scarring. We had to do microdermabrasion, all this stuff, right? Nothing was getting to the root cause. And I end up seeing a psoriasis doctor in Kingston. His name was, I can't remember his name, but I remember what he looks like.
Yeah.
Because this guy changed my life. And so we walk in there and he takes my blood. And he puts my blood under a microscope and he looks at it, my blood profile, and he says, your liver is detoxifying so hard. Are you an alcoholic?
Wow.
My liver profile was like of an alcoholic, and I'm 15.
Wow.
And trying to be an athlete.
Yeah, that's not a good feeling.
And so he says to me, there's something that you're eating that's causing your liver to have to detoxify so hard. And we end up working out what it was. It was dairy. And so in 6 months from having complete acne, I had no acne when I took away dairy.
Oh my God.
And I'll never forget this moment. I was sitting on his bench and I remember saying to myself was, how can you go to medical school for 10 years and not know food can heal your body? And this planted a seed in me that would later on, 10, 15 years later, germinate into being a health coach and having organic food businesses and then the bigger vision of Primal Move.
Yeah.
But yeah, high school was really rough. When I got to university, then I was a bit more of a social butterfly. I definitely enjoyed myself, and
Yeah, cool.
I wasn't focused on studies. You touched on that I had this discipline. The discipline that I grew up with, I didn't know any different. Like when I grew up, my dad would be like, I tell you once, that's it.
Okay.
And so I grew up in a really strict household in those terms, where it was really fostered into me that hard work and discipline were the precursors to success. And I didn't know this until now. When I'm in my early 30s, I see the principles my parents gave me, but I also saw them live by, that has now shaped me into the man that I am. But back when I was in my early 20s, oh man, I was not on board.
So so did the rebellion inside come out a bit when you got to uni and you were a bit, you let out the younger self that didn't get to party and didn't get to hang out with the friends and stay out to all hours of the night?
I found women and that was it.
Yeah.
Oh, mate.
That's brilliant. But I mean, obviously he's given you the principles and that's the most important thing. So I guess, like, for anyone listening, if you've got a really tough, strict household, it may pay off at a later time in your life. Like, yeah, it sucks, but actually sometimes tough love is good love when it's for the right reasons, right?
Yeah, 100%. And when I had finished university, I worked in these jobs, and we can touch on this in a little bit, but I worked shit jobs for a good number of years and I suffered a lot, and I went through probably some of the hardest moments of my life to form me into who I had to become to hold the vision of Primal Move. And that process isn't finished, but it's literally been like the bell curve.
Wow. So what is the vision of Primal Move? Because I mean, it's obviously evolved over many years, and if you were to describe it to our audience, how would you do that? Like, what does it stand for, and what's the big vision?
So Primal Move came about after I had left Croatia. So I had moved to Croatia to support my brother. My brother ended up becoming a professional soccer player, and I had finished my personal training degree, and also what else had I finished? Had I finished Czech then? I can't remember. I don't think I'd finished my Czech training, which is corrective holistic exercise kinesiology.
Cool.
But I ended up moving to Croatia, helping my brother become a professional athlete, sacrificing a year of my life to support his dreams, and also having the freedom to research anything I ever wanted. So it was one of the best times and one of the shittest times of my life. But I come back to Australia and I start operating as a PT, and I'm working just from a basketball court in Gungahlin at Yerriby Pond.
Yeah,
And I
wow.
remember my first client, his name is Sean, and he owns Fast Digital in Mitchell. I'm still in contact today.
That's sick.
Cool.
Yeah, he paid me $60 back then an hour, and he told me about Bitcoin. He told me about Bitcoin
Wow.
back then. I didn't buy it.
Wow. Oh, no. Spewing.
Yeah,
Don't
he
let
didn't
that
buy. He
happen
didn't buy
again,
it. He didn't buy it either.
No, fair enough.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it started as a personal trainer, and then I had always intended to get into more of a holistic coaching role, because this is what I had experienced through my soccer career. I had been exposed to the best psychologists, exercise therapists, massage therapists, osteos, like in the world. And Canberra has so many of them, actually. Like, you'd be so surprised. So surprised. And so I ended up doing this study as part of the Czech Institute. And I became this corrective holistic exercise kinesiologist, which means I just look at the body in a holistic way, mind, body, spirit. I was able to assess people's posture, help them with their nutrition, diet, lifestyle factors, and also then it got into deeper spiritual principles. And I had a business like this for 5 years. And the reason why I decided on this was because I knew that if I could write the best exercise program, but people didn't have their nutrition sorted, it would be a waste. And then I realized that if I hadn't got their mindset in order, they would sabotage the exercise and the diet program. And then it eventually got to the stage that their subconscious and spirit had even more of an impact on what they were going to do. So they might have had things from their childhood, and that's causing them pain. And so eventually I ended up becoming this guy in Canberra who would be seen when no one could help someone. So the medical system had failed them, similar to what people come to Jason as last resorts. That's what I would do. And so my clients would be like a mum who is like on 10 different medications, antidepressants, sleeping pills. She's got 2 kids and she wants to commit suicide.
Wow.
And I'm like a 23-year-old now trying to work out what's the root cause and how do we get her healthy. Or there's another example that comes to mind of she was a young woman and she was in her early 20s, around my age, and she had severe back pain, like can't sit back pain. Gone to the neurosurgeons and they look at her scans and like, there's nothing wrong with you. It's all in your head. And so then I would develop a program to work out what was happening. So for her, she had compressed her spine. So I had to get her to decompress her spine, teach her body then to restabilize in the correct position, and then work out what was the mental emotional layer that was causing the pain. And her dad had cancer and she had a fear that her sense of safety was going to be ripped away.
Yeah, okay. Wow.
And so this is the philosophy of Primal Move. And so this grows then to me starting Primal Move Food with my best friend. And we ended up creating the first organic food home delivery business in Canberra. And we operated out of NextGen.
Wow.
And I'm still best friends with Chris today. And, we just bootstrapped this business. And it was a lot of work, doing custom meals. And this was at the same time as U-Foods had just started. Yeah. So we're in the right place at the right time. And the business wasn't doing that great. It was a lot of work. There wasn't hardly any margin. So we pivoted to protein balls. And then we ended up selling protein balls across all of Canberra. So I would go into the CBD in Civic, sell to Greenhouse, sell to all these places. And this was like my first real experience of sales, like proper sales, not just selling your coaching service.
Yeah, cool.
And anyways, long story short, we end up closing the business. And I made a promise to Chris when we started our business that no matter what happens, this guy has been my friend, my best friend since I was 18. I've known him since I was 14. I met him in an art class at high school.
Nice.
And I said to him, I would rather close the business than lose you as a friend. And it actually came to the point where I had to put my money where my mouth was.
Yeah.
Wow.
So to bring a full circle to this story, Chris ends up having depression, really bad depression, because he's doing 14 hours in a kitchen 7 days a week for probably like 7 to 10 years.
Holy shit.
Burns out his body. And he wouldn't mind me telling this story, so I might as well tell it. But anyways, he's doing really bad. And
Yeah.
I drag him to see Jason. And Chris is 6'4", over 100 kilos. It's probably like 30, 40 kilos heavier than me.
Big
And I
dude.
remember I rocked up to his house and I said, Chris, I'm taking you somewhere. And he's like, where are we going? I'm like, you're going to go see my mentor. And he was like, I don't want to go. And I literally grabbed him and I said, get in the fucking car. If you don't get in the car, I'm going to make you get in the car.
Nice.
And so he ends up doing a session with Jace and his life changes. And he can, if you ever speak to him, he'll tell you that story.
Yeah.
But as a result, we end up closing our business.
Okay.
And literally at this time, I had just sent a proposal to Qantas.
Wow.
Yeah.
To get like the protein balls on their airplanes.
On the airplanes. Yep. And so Qantas had come back to us and said they weren't interested. And then the next one we were going to was Virgin.
Yeah.
And so then I had to close the business. And so
how'd that make you feel?
It was a tough discussion, you know, like, one, Chris is like my brother, he's like family, and two, the business was so important as well. So I really had to weigh up what's more important. Is money important? Is a business important? Or is your friendship and family more important?
That's tough.
Yeah, it was really tough. And so we ended up closing the business, and God bless, we ended up staying best friends, and still to this day.
So by this time, so you mentioned that, so you were in the academy with Jason, or were you just seeing him one-on-one?
Seeing him one-on-one.
Yeah, right. Okay, cool. And so had you been seeing him for a little while?
Yeah, I'd been seeing him for probably 12 months, and I was broke. When I mean I was broke, I mean like I couldn't afford to do sessions with him. I bankrolled everything on credit cards.
Far out.
And I wasn't getting results either. And the reason why I wasn't getting results was because I wasn't listening.
Yeah, fair enough.
So something inside of me just said, keep going. Like I would every month. Like, I mean, when I mean I had no money, I mean like I couldn't pay some months of my mortgage. I had to sell things. And so when I took Chris to see him, I had no money. I bankrolled it again on a credit card.
Yeah, wow.
I mean, I had no money. I was broke.
You really had to go into like survival mode, basically.
I probably lived in survival mode, like week to week, while I had a coaching business and Primal Move Food for probably 3-4 years.
Yeah, okay. So you were doing both of them at the same time?
I had my coaching business for 2 years, and then after 2 years, we started Primal Move Food, and then we operated Primal Move Food for, I think, 1.5 years.
Wow. And so did this all stem from that dairy moment, basically, plus other things?
Yeah, so the dairy moment, and also when I was a teenager, all the people that I was exposed to. So I was exposed to this woman called Lisa Wilson. She was an ex-AIS gymnast and then became a gymnastic coach, and then she became a personal trainer. But a personal trainer like no one's business. I mean, like this woman understood the body better than osteos that I had met. And so she taught me about posture, about what's called length tension relationships in the body. Yeah. She exposed me to this guy called Paul Chek. And Paul Chek is like the guru of like holistic health. He was talking about organic food back in 1980. He's the guy who pioneered the Swiss ball. He brought the Swiss ball, which was originally the medical ball, into the gyms. You know the cable machines in the gym?
Yeah.
He designed it.
Holy shit.
So when you think about names in fitness, you got Arnold Schwarzenegger and Paul Chek, but no one's heard of Paul Chek unless you're in the field. So that guy ends up being a real
pioneer.
Yeah, he ends up becoming like a real mentor to me in a lot of ways. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. It sounds like you've had a lot of like real big mentors in your life, like, you know, professionals and well put together, educated people that have just shown you incredible things. Like, that's amazing, man.
I really count myself lucky. I think I've had exceptional male role models my whole life. The thing was, I always seeked them out. So when I think about even people my own age, like today, I go to my elders for wisdom. I ask them questions, and I've done this my whole life because I realize I can't buy wisdom. I can only sit at the feet of people that have lived.
That's awesome.
And so I've looked, and God has blessed me with like really great male role models at really key junctions of my life where I could have gone right and gone off the path, off the ship, but I went left because of their advice.
Yeah. And so this all really led you down a business sort of entrepreneurial path. It sounds like your mindset is like, I need to create something. So then what happened with because you mentioned that you're in the sales and stuff. So what happened? How did you get into sales and like, let us know about like, how did that transition go?
So I end up closing Primal Move Food, stop working as a holistic exercise coach, and I take a job laboring.
Oh.
Bricky's laborer, laboring on a job site for a year and a half. And if you want to find hell, I found it.
Yeah.
And I've worked on job sites my whole life, and this was hell.
Yeah. Okay.
And so I ended up doing these to give you context as well, not only was I laboring during the day, I had to Uber Eats in the evening to pay my mortgage.
Oh, wow.
So I'd labor like a slave all day and then go do Uber Eats in the evening to make enough money.
My God.
And this was very humbling for me, and still to this day. And what happens is I'd come up when I had become an exercise kinesiologist and started Primal Move, I had this vision of this whole brand called Primal Move. And what Primal Move is teaching people how to reconnect to their primordial nature. And the way to do that, in my opinion, was to help them with their thoughts, their breathing, their hydration, their nourishment, their movement, their rest, and their environment, because those were the things that dictated how healthy you were. And the more healthy and happy you were, you would move up what I call the I, we, all model. Your basic needs are met. And so then you have looked after I, and then you can start caring about others, which is the we. And when we get enough people at the we level, then we start caring at the all level, which were the world issues that I saw that really spoke to my heart, which was climate change, poverty, injustice. These were the things that I saw that now I'm getting to put my thumb on in a big way through Primal Move and the government. But back then I realized that there was this philosophy of that if I could show someone how to connect back to their primal nature, reconnect to nature, that their primordial spirit would come through them more, because the healthier the temple, the more you can connect to the divine God. If you don't believe in it, you feel healthy and happy, it doesn't matter, but you're a better person.
Yeah, wow, that's awesome.
So I have this, to answer your question, I had this thought that I needed to learn how to sell. I needed to learn how to sell because at some point in my life, I was going to sell this vision to investors. And so I did this research and I found all these billionaires had done cold sales. And I was like, this is a skill set then that I need to learn. And due to some circumstances in my life, my girlfriend at the time ends up getting a job in Queensland. And so I leave Canberra with her. We move to Queensland. That relationship ends and I end up taking a job at a gym. And again, it was shit.
Yeah.
These guys were all about NLP, manipulation, use your hand motions to indicate which choice you want the customer to make. It was all manipulation. It had no integrity. It was all about the dollars and not about the person.
Yeah.
And I hate this job. But I chose this job because I learned how they do sales at a big scale.
Yeah, okay.
So this gym ends up, I started there very early on and they ended up getting to 2,000, 2,500 members within 2 years, which is a lot of members. And I'm not talking about like $14 a week. I'm talking about like $59 a week.
Holy shit.
So I ended up sacrificing a lot of things in my life to work at this place. I caught a train for an hour and a half every second week because my girlfriend at the time and I shared a car.
Yeah.
I got paid $50,000 a year and had to work Saturdays. Like, I gave up a lot.
Yeah.
And so I end up hating this job. And I take a job at a smoke alarm company. A recruiter calls me and goes, there's a job going. It's in this industry. You have no experience in this industry, but I think you'd be a good fit. Okay. So I have a meeting with this company. I was half an hour late because of traffic. I'm getting changed literally in an intersection into a suit to go to this job interview. And I hit it off with my boss and I ended up doing smoke alarm sales.
Yeah.
And as a result, I find that I'm actually really good at sales. And through the work I did with Jace, we end up developing this holistic model of sales. And not only did we develop this model, but I could see the results. So I ended up coming into an industry that I have no experience. I have really no sales experience whatsoever. And in 12 months, I become the highest grossing salesperson in Australia.
Holy shit.
And the skill set that I got to learn was someone would be already with a smoke alarm company in Queensland. And it was my job to walk in, convince them to leave who they're with and join me.
Yeah. That's tough.
All cold.
Wow.
And so I really then learned to sell and develop this methodology of sales that is from the heart, that has soul. That isn't about just seeing a person as a number, as a dollar, but actually, what do they need? How can I help you? And there were all these beautiful moments where I was guided by, again, the male mentor, the wise one, to show me on how do I become the person I need to become. And so I make this company a lot of money. And my self-worth starts to grow. I start to realize like, oh, I'm good at things again, because up until this point, I was like in mud, self-worth was low.
Yeah.
And so ever since then, it started building again. And I had given, do you want me to keep going with this story?
Yeah, of course. Absolutely.
And so I had given up on Primal Move when I'd moved to Queensland. I literally had given up. Wow. And by the divine, that night that I had given up, I got a LinkedIn message from the chief operating officer of a huge gym chain called Good Life. In Canberra, they're not there, but they'd be like as big as Fitness First, if not bigger.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so he sends me a random LinkedIn message saying, I love this part of your bio, live in harmony with nature.
Mm.
This then ends up becoming a friendship where we develop this primal move vision of these wellness facilities, the start of them. And for me at the time, having someone of that level believe in you was what I needed.
Yeah, wow.
And so then I start to then invest more time and resources on becoming who I needed to become to hold the vision. And long story short, last year, I got to pitch investors this vision. And after I pitched the investors, I just broke down in tears. Like I was gone, because
Triumph.
it was a huge triumph.
Yeah.
Regardless of whether they were in or out, I had done the
Mm.
thing that I said I was going to do. It took a long time,
Yeah.
but I had gone to someone, showed them the vision. And this isn't like $1,000. This is like $10 million.
Holy shit.
And I had convinced someone and shown someone the value of like, this thing would change the world.
Yeah.
And so then that led to a series of events that ends up me having meetings with the ACT government and starting the process now of hopefully building this facility in Canberra.
Yeah.
It would
Wow.
literally change the world. Yeah.
That's incredible, because it's like you're going to involve so many different aspects of really like genuine, holistic healing organization. Like that's incredible.
The idea of primal move is even though people will have all these health benefits, the community will have these benefits, the environment will have these benefits of this facility. The real seed that I want to plant is that the benefits will happen in 2 generations.
Yeah.
And this is the thing that actually, this is my why, is that if little kids knew how to eat, move, and be healthy, what type of world would they create?
Yeah.
They would live in harmony with nature. They wouldn't destroy nature. They wouldn't destroy other people or their communities, because their self-esteem is strong. They're healthy. They're happy. And where I saw back then where the world was going, I realized that in 2 generations, we're going to have children so disconnected from nature. And when we disconnect from nature, we've disconnected from God, because God is nature. We are nature.
Yeah.
And so this is the legacy that I want to leave the world, that I got to create something with a whole bunch of help from other people. It's not just me. That gets to be passed on generation to generation to generation.
Wow. That's incredible. You know, it sounds like you couldn't have done it alone. Definitely not. And it's interesting that with other people's help, you were able to create, you were able to get support for like a $10 million building, as well as all the other things you've done. It's like, what that's saying is we need others. Like we have to do it for everyone, and we need to come together to create something great. How has that been for you to have to not think about yourself so much and think about how can I help us? How can I help everyone? Like, talk about how it was in the beginning, maybe when you were doing sales, and how it is now. Like, what's the difference?
So I would say I was really selfish. It was all about me. It was all about how can I have significance? Because if I do well, then I'm important. And still to this day, I wrestle with this. There's a real, I have to really remind myself that it's about we, it's not about me. And sometimes this comes really easily. So with Primal Move, this comes so easily because I feel like it's so deep inside my soul. But in other aspects of my life, I have to remind myself that if I focus on being of service, good things will come. But when I make it about myself, I lose everything. And that was actually my experience. Was I was a health coach that helped all these people, but when they wouldn't listen to my advice, I took it personally.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't getting the appreciation that I needed or wanted. When I started doing sales for the gym, the reason why it didn't resonate with me, because I could feel inside of me that something wasn't right. That when I actually cared about helping someone, I felt good and they felt good. But when it was like give take, that's not the right equation, because if you go 1 + 0 = 1, but if you get 1 + 1, you get 2. So the math of the equation is that when I win and you win, we create more.
I like
But if
that.
I win and you lose, or I lose and you win, the numbers don't add up.
That's cool.
I really like that.
Yeah.
That's powerful. Look at it that way. It's quite a transformation. Like, where are you at now in the process of the building? Is it we've got COVID going on, so that might slow things down, but is it where's it up to? Is it looking good, or is it not looking good, or what's happening?
So I just want to touch on the one plus one, right?
Sure.
If you really look how nature works, nature does not work in this world that we think of like survival of the fittest, give and take. That's not how nature works. Nature works for giving, for re-giving. So let me give you an example. The antelope gives its life to feed the lion. The lion then dies, ends up feeding the soil microbes that then creates the grass to feed the antelope. There's no giving and taking in nature. There's only giving for re-giving.
Yeah, wow. I like the way your mind thinks. I really like that. It's very like full circle sort of thing. I really like that.
Holistic.
Yeah.
Cody, to answer your question where I'm at, I've had a couple meetings with the government, and I'm going through now the process of developing a more in-depth proposal. When you go to the government, they check everything. And so I'm having to go through analysis of catchment areas of like, where do we put it? I've got an idea of where I want to put it. How many people are we going to have there? I've got exactly what it looks like. And then I submit all of this, and then my hands are free. There's nothing I can do. So I could do all this work and get nothing.
Wow.
But I know that I could not live with myself if I didn't try.
Yeah.
Exactly. And if you're patient, it may happen one day.
We'll make it happen. Whether it's the government route or whether it's the private route, we'll find a way to make it happen. I really believe that I have no choice. I really have no choice.
I really like to. Oh, sorry.
Go on. Yeah.
So I just really would like to talk like about your mental health stuff as well, and get into the emotions of everything that's happened in your past and where you're at, and like how you're feeling now, and really just explore, because it's all really awesome to look at you and be like, oh my god, you're amazing. Like, you know, you're an inspiration in the health industry. You're creating your own building and everything. What's the emotions under that? Like, you know, because at the end of the day, you're a human being, and yeah, I'd just love to know that.
Out of terror.
Yeah, wow.
Out of terror and fear.
Yep.
Like this is so outside my comfort zone. I have no experience doing this.
Sure.
Who am I to like have such a big dream?
Of self-doubt.
Yeah, heaps. Heaps of self-doubt, heaps of fear, heaps of also sabotage. Of sabotage in the form of trying to slow things down. Because once you get momentum, you don't have control.
Okay.
So there's a lot of there's been sleepless nights, there's been anxiety, I've shed so many tears, because one thing that no one ever told me that I wish they had told me was there's a price you pay for your dream, and that price that you pay is who you have to become.
Yeah.
And
wow.
usually who you have to become is who you have to let go of.
That's hard. That's massive.
Yeah. And so the bigger the dream, the more blood needs to be spilt in the good form of spilling the blood.
Yeah, not like Spartan era.
Not like the Spartan era, exactly. But there's a price that's paid.
Yeah.
You know, the price that I pay for this is I don't get to choose where I live, in a way.
Yeah.
Because my soul has guided me to build this in Canberra. So I sacrifice things that I want to make this dream come true for the betterment of humanity. And the thing that I have to sacrifice the most is my doubts, is my fears, what am I doing? Why can't I just be normal like other people? Why can't I have something small?
Yeah. just a farm on the ranch. So, you know, a couple
Many
of
times
kids.
I've been like, let's just move to like Vanuatu and
Yeah,
we'll avoid the world.
Mm.
yeah, that would be good.
But that's interesting. It makes me wonder why you're doing this. It sounds like you've always wanted more, you know. It sounds like you may not have had the results necessarily that you wanted, and there's been failures and things like that, but what's driving you? Like, what's the real motivation?
Mm.
Is it the excitement of this, or is it something deeper? Like, what keeps you going?
It's the children. So the vision of seeing the kids playing, that's what brings me to tears.
Mm.
The failures were important because I had to learn humility, because the building, really what its essence is to balance the male and female, the masculine and feminine. And so in every aspect of my life, and that's the yin yang. To create real health, you have to balance your yin and your yang. So to give you an example, when the muscles grow, they grow when you rest. But you need to have the stimulus of exercise, the yang and the yin of rest to make something grow. And so every aspect of me that's not in balance in the yin and yang, in my psyche, has to go. Because how can I hold and lead a vision like this if I'm not in integrity of that? And that's not like I've got it ticked. That's an unfolding process.
Mm.
So the thing that, you know, when I look back at like why, there's probably like 3 reasons that really intertwine, and I honestly don't know which one it is. You know, when I've thought about it, I'm like, is this just my need for significance? And I was like, yeah, it probably is. But also I incarnated with parents that were so hardworking and so disciplined. You can't hold and go after something like this if you don't have ambition, if you're not disciplined, if you don't know how to communicate. Like, I was really lucky that I grew up in a good family. If I'd grown up in Ethiopia, this never would have happened.
No.
I grew up in Australia and I come from a good family. But what I think really it is I knew deep down inside of myself that I was meant to give something to the world.
Mm.
And what that looks like, I don't know yet. I'm just walking the path to find out what that is. This building tomorrow might be an app. I have no idea. All I know is I'm guided by something that says, go here. And I gave up on this vision. I had honestly given up. And the night that had happened, I was like, I can never give up on this.
Wow.
It was literally like I got thrown a lifeline, and it was like, keep going. I know it's hard. I know you failed a lot. I know you think you're worth nothing. Keep going.
Mm. Well, that guy can do it, if any, the owner of all the Good Life clubs.
Mm.
Yeah.
But that's an incredible story. I think it's I think everyone has like a spirit that pushes them, and sometimes we can make excuses about why we can't, and often it's fear of failure, or our parents want us to do something so we have to do that. But like, for the people out there that may not even know what they want to do, or maybe they kind of have a dream that they've given up on, like, what would you say to those people? You know, there's heaps of people out there that can't even dream. Like, they've never even had the courage to dream. And there are some people that have just failed too many times, they've given up. Like, what kind of advice do you have for anyone out there that is in those places or struggling?
You're dreaming too small. Make your dream so big that it will move people. It's easier. When I tried to just do things small scale, it was harder. When I make the best thing that ever happened to me was when I pitched this investor and they were like, we're in, they said to me, Ante, I want you to dream so big, money is no object.
Wow.
And my mind went boom. And you hear this all the time, that people say, you know, what would you do if you didn't have to work, if you really loved it? And that never resonated with me. What resonated with me was, if you could create anything, money is no object, what would you do? That's the thing you should go do. That's the thing. And it's usually a lot bigger than just you. And so then you need to go and learn how to sell, because you're going to have to convince people to be a part of it, because you can't do it on your own. You never can. So my advice to people is think bigger, like a lot bigger, and then go learn to communicate well enough that you can pull people into your dream.
Wow. That's awesome.
Killer advice.
That's so inspirational.
It's counterintuitive because, people tell you to think realistic. I think that's not important, actually. My experience has been, and I learned this from Walt Disney. I was reading Walt Disney's book. Walt Disney, what he would do is his brother and him started Disney. And his brother was the finance guy, and then Walt was the creative. And Walt would design these huge things, and his brother's like, we can't afford it. And he would say to him, go find a way. And they would find a way. They would be at, there'd be maybe a couple dollars in the bank, but they would go do it. And this led to Mickey Mouse. This led to Disneyland. This is how you actually innovate.
Yeah.
This is like, you got to think big, really big, that it scares you. And you think like, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can do this in my lifetime.
Yeah.
It's probably not going to work.
You're going to give it a go.
That's the thing, because really at the end of the day, it's not about the building. It's not about the business. It's about who you become along the way.
Yeah. Oh, that's massive. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, this all really, like, yeah, you've got all this external stuff happening, but the most important thing is your own individual growth, and that how much you grow individually will reflect how much you touch everyone else, how much an impact you have. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, and I used to hear this and think like it's about the journey. I used to think these people were full of shit, honestly. I used to, it's about the journey. I'm like, yeah, it's about the journey because you're already successful.
Yeah, okay.
But I can honestly say, hand on heart, that moment when I got to pitch the investors and I broke down crying, there was a level of freedom and joy in that moment that I've never experienced. And even like now thinking about it, I can feel my heart and my chest just shake, because no matter what happens, that moment, that experience, who I became along that process can never be taken. Yeah. Never. And so I can lose things, I can lose buildings, I can lose money, I can create money, I can create whatever. But who I am along the way, who I get to develop, that's more exciting for me as I go along further and further into developing myself, because it becomes less about the exterior world and more about my internal world. And I start to see that the more I work on my internal world, the more the external world will reflect it.
It sounds like you're really walking towards that fear and terror, and like that is the transformational point where, like, this terrifies you, but you're going to do it anyway, and that becomes the journey of personal development and enlightenment as well. That's incredible.
100%. To give you an idea, the day that I pitched the government, I cried 9 times before the meeting. And I mean, hysterically cried, because I was pushing against so many limitations and barriers in my psyche of where I should be.
Wow.
It's safe to be small. It's safe to fit into the community. It's not safe to rock everything.
Yeah.
And, like, people think you just have to be confident. Confidence is the result of courage. Courage is the result of doing things that you're scared of. So the more, I would rather be courageous than be confident, because confidence is you feel safe in the moment. And if you want to create something and grow, you're never going to feel safe all the time. So why not develop courage?
That's cool.
But if your vision is big enough, I think you just walk towards it and there's not even, yeah, fear is there and terror, but you just do it anyway because you see it and you know that it's worth moving towards, and you see the results and you see what it's going to do. And fear and courage, fear is just, it's there, but it's not debilitating. I think a lot of people, they go, oh, I get a lot of fear when I think about approaching a girl, if you're a young guy, or same for girls, or I have a lot of fear going for that higher promotion. It's like, well, you're not thinking big enough. Why don't you go for the head of the company? You know, is it the same fear? Oh, it's like, it's a little bit more. I think you're right, Ante. Like, you may as well go as big as you can because you're still going to have fear. But if you go bigger, you might want it more. And then it might give you more motivation to move through the fear.
And you don't really know like your own limits, do you? Like you could be limitless, and if you feel like, oh, I'll go for the promotion instead of becoming the CEO, then like who knows? You could along that journey become more than the CEO. You could start your own sort of thing, and you're finding your own limits, and you're literally you think your limit is here, and then you go out here and you go, oh shit, my limit's out here actually. Oh shit, my limits are out here now. Like that's incredible.
I really believe that. And I think we are limitless. When I think of, I got this intuitive insight when I was 23 working in the public service. And I call it the math of God. And the math of God can be described in this. Imagine a triangle.
Yep.
Up the top is a 0. Bottom left is a plus. Bottom right is a negative, a minus. This is yin yang as well. For a 0 can be everything and it can be nothing, right? A 0 can be a +1, it can be a -1. So it has the potential to be anything and nothing at the same time. For a 0 to know itself, it has to create duality or polarity, right?
Wow.
You got male, you got female, you got sun, you got moon, you got masculine, you got feminine. We live in the polarity to return back to realizing we're that everything and nothing, we're the 0. It's the 0-point field. So to give you the math, it's 0 equals plus over minus. That's the math of God. That's literally what we are. And the more we can tap into the potential of ourselves, the more we pull into polarity what we want.
That's incredible. That's blown my mind. Oh my God.
It's really interesting. So we want to be a circle rather than have limits like a square, or be a plus or be a minus. We want to be the circle so we can use the plus and minus and expand. Yeah, I can really see it. I can really see it. So how would you get people to create a vision? Like what did you do? Was there a way? Like did you just wake up and go, that's the thing? Or like how would you get people to create their vision or think bigger, like meditation, or what would you do?
I think they just need to connect to their little kid. So one thing that I think is one of my strengths is I'm a bit cheeky, I'm a bit playful, and this allows me to connect to my little kid. Is a little shit and smart ass, which I love. So how do you create? Connect to your little kid. Draw, get colors out. Even I just wrote the question, what do I want to create? And then I just drew a mind map. I was like, I want this facility, I want this app thing, I want the food thing, and literally I've still got the original diagram. I keep it with me.
Wow.
It's worn out to the shit, but I'm keeping it with me. I'll frame it one day. So to answer your question, how do you create? Connect back to your little kid, and usually that way is through imagination. Yeah.
No, brilliant. That's great advice, Ante. It's very inspiring. I think a lot of people benefit from hearing your story because we're all told to be safe, stay small, get a secure job, don't go too far out of the lines, follow the herd, do what your parents did, etc. I think it takes a lot of courage to fail to also go where you're going and go into the unknown. And I think mental health, like Liam was saying, is a big part of it. So is there anything that you do to just stay sane? I don't know, look after your mental health. Like we all know physical health, but what do you do to keep your mind and your body and your emotions in check?
It's a great question. Serotonin is your happiness hormone. Do you know where 90% of your serotonin is created?
Yeah.
Exactly. 90% of your serotonin is made in your gut. So what you eat dictates how happy you think and feel. So one thing that I like to do is eat certified organic. And the reason why I eat certified organic is because it has no pesticides, and pesticides are endocrine disruptors. That means that they disrupt your glands and your detoxification pathways, as well as your gut. So I try and eat really healthy, and I drink just water, because this then allows me to create the biochemistry to make happiness.
Makes sense.
Nutrition number one. That's the first thing I do. How do I, to answer the rest of your question, how do I stay, your question about mental health, how do I stay happy and strong in times? I work out, I watch the sunrise, I watch the sunset. I try and do things to return back to nature. I move, I go to bed with the sun and the moon. So I go to bed at 9 o'clock. These things change your biochemistry. When shit hits the fan, and like everything doesn't work, and you just wake up on the wrong side of the bed, or you argue with your partner, or you lose a deal in sales, or whatever it is, I've probably learned to acknowledge that it's okay to have things not go your way the way you want in life. And just we all know this, to honor, acknowledge, and accept. But for me, I'm so harsh on myself that I've had to then foster that, like, Ante, you can get through this. You'll find a way. And so I've had to also then develop this self-encouragement that, like, even though things don't go your way, you can find a way. And this has served me a lot, because usually when we get stuck is we can't see the light, we're in the mud. And, I used to tell my clients, in a room full of darkness, all you need is a flicker of light to see where to go. You don't need the whole room to be light. You just need one little candle, and you can move where you need to go. So I think just realizing that things aren't going to go to your way, and that's okay. And the more you can accept things the way they are and realize that you're the creator of it all, you'll start to have a sense of safety and control that you can change. Maybe not the external situations, but you can definitely change how you feel to whatever event. So during COVID, I've been pretty good. I've probably thrived, rather than felt like I've survived. And the reason is because of the level of work we all do inside the academy and outside the academy. So I think number one is your nutrition. Number two is to connect to nature. So sunrise, sunsets, they change me instantly. And number three is doing the work on yourself so you can accept that life's polarity. There's things that don't go your way. And the more you can be okay with that and see why they didn't go your way, the better off you're going to be.
That's awesome.
Sounds like you've got a real level of adaptability that you've learned over your life, just from all your different jobs, experiences, all that sort of stuff. That's amazing. Now, I just wanted to ask another question. What's the best advice that you got given from one of your mentors?
The one that comes to my mind is actually my dad.
Oh, great.
And my dad has this saying that I really love, and it's called, "It's not my standard." So my dad works in the construction industry, and he would have these tradespeople come and work. And if they didn't do a good job, he would say to them, "That's not my standard. So either meet my standard or you can't work for me."
Yeah.
And this philosophy I've taken into my life, into my relationships, into the way I hold myself, into my businesses, into my friendship circles. So I have a standard, and it's like it's above the line or below the line. And so if it's not my standard, it's not my standard.
That's awesome. That's really good.
Yeah,
I'm going to take that on for myself.
it's served me really well.
That's cool, man. Oh, that's awesome. Well, yeah, you've got such an incredible story, like a great triumph. And personally, I'm really excited to watch where you go and how far you can take this primal move industry and see what comes of it, because you've got my support, man.
Thanks, mate. Appreciate that. And yeah, I don't know where it's going to go, but I'm going to go north and see what happens.
That's great. That's really good.
That's awesome. So how can people find you if they want to learn about your sales course that you run, and also just like check in with you? Is it Instagram or Facebook or a bit of both? And you've got your own podcast as well, right? The Primal Move podcast.
Yep. So
awesome.
They can find me at the Primal Move podcast. Similar to you guys, I interview people and also share some things going on in my life, like the progress of Primal Move.
It's really good.
Thanks, mate.
I really enjoy your podcast.
What episode do you like the most?
I like the one. You did an episode with the mentor that you had? What's his name? Paul Check.
Yeah.
That was my favorite. Hearing his story about how intense he went through, like his upbringing. I was like, oh my God, you are incredible.
I
really liked that one.
Yeah, he's a special human, especially he was like the epitome for me of what a human could be, the potential of someone.
Yeah.
You know. But
I can understand that.
Yeah, the Primal Move podcast, or on Facebook, Ante Strika, or on Instagram, it's just my first name _ surname, ANTE _ STRIKA. And my course.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. My course, I'm going to be releasing a sales course very soon. Yeah, a new one. So find me on the socials and you'll hear about it.
Yeah, we'll put all the links and stuff to whatever you want in the show notes and whatever, so they can find you, and keep them updated about your course coming up too.
Thank you.
Yeah, but thanks heaps for coming on. It was I think well, I mean, I got a lot of benefit. I think people who listen were really going to get a lot of benefit from that. There was like 3 or 4 things that were really quotable that you said. I'm going to try and get those quotes and put them as well, like some really powerful takeaways. And it was awesome to hear your story. And I hope you enjoy the hot weather up there while we all experience the cold. But no, thanks for coming on. It was like awesome to have you on, and we really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks so much, Ante. It was really good chatting to you.
Thank you, guys. It's a pleasure being on here.
Awesome. Hopefully we have you on another time.
Anytime.
Awesome. Thanks, mate.
Ante.